Yo, 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 this is not the smartest guys in the room. I see my main man, Tom. He's looking good today. Looking slender today, Tom. How are you, my friend?
Thank you. Thank you. I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Appreciate it. Your hair's looking fantastic today, by the way. As might as well start the day off trading compliments back and forth. I like it. Yeah, I just got back from a run about 20 minutes ago. So I think I finally stopped actively sweating, which is, I'm sure, what everybody wants to hear. First, at 9:30 in the morning on a Wednesday, they want to hear that I have stopped sweating. So you're welcome to everyone listening. Congratulations on getting to hear that at 9:30 on a Wednesday morning. Hopefully you weren't eating your breakfast as I said it, but yeah, I just got back from a run a few minutes ago, feeling good. Actually, I wanted to make an announcement because last weekend I went skiing with a buddy of mine. I went skiing a few weeks before that with a high school buddy of mine, and so I've decided I'm going to throw in the towel. I'm going to sell Talix Media, and I'm just going to buy a van and go ski bum. That's my new plan. So I'll still do Not the Smartest Guys in the Room. I'm just going to do it remotely from my van at whatever resort I'm currently at. I'm going to buy an Epic Pass and just travel around and go to their resorts.
Is this are you playing April Fools on us, Tom? Because it is that time of the year where people make these kind of jokes,
I mean, I don't know what you're talking about.
Uh, Selling a van and traveling the world is buying a van and traveling the world. There's something to that. I When me and my dad rode to DC about 8 years ago or something like that, we rode on bikes from Pennsylvania to DC, and I had just this little pack on my back and just hanging out with my dad, and we're like basically like hitchhikers, but we were on our bike because there was a lot of floods. It was one of the happiest times of my life, so I can see that maybe everybody in this room or everybody listening, quit and get yourself a van. What do you think, Tom?
I mean, yeah, in all seriousness, like if I was independently wealthy or had like a really high paying job that I could like work remotely and where I didn't have to worry about like finding work or any of that, I just like showed up, did my stuff and like clocked out. And I was in my 20s, I got to tell you, I probably would be doing that, right? Like I would be buying a van and like driving around and like skiing places, cycling places, like just doing, if I was who I am today in my 20s, because in my 20s I was not this guy, right? Like I did ski, but I wasn't like the active person that I am today. I wasn't doing like triathlons or anything like that. I was drinking a lot, I was smoking a pack a day, and I was occasionally doing some stuff outdoors, but mostly I was working, right? If I wasn't like partying or having fun, like I was working. So, I did spend the better part of like my 20s and 30s traveling around the world, traveling around the States, traveling around the world for work. And it was amazing. And I miss it a little bit. Like Becky and I've talked about, fortunately we're in a place where I think this is a realistic goal that we're going to plan to do like an international family vacation every year. So every year we want to take Isla someplace, around the world, someplace really interesting. It doesn't have to be international, but like we're going to make a specific trip to go somewhere and have an experience, as a family every year. That's the sort of goal that we've set out. And it was really kind of off the idea of like the fact that we went to France last fall for that triathlon, like having her get to experience the world and different people in different places and different subcultures and microcultures, right? Because you go around the US, as you know, from your travels also, like you go to different parts of the US and there are different subcultures in different parts of this country, right? So like, and a lot of people haven't even been to very many states around the US, right? I forget what only half of the US population even has a passport. And of the people who travel in the US, I forget what it is, but like a shocking number of have been to less than 5 other states than the state that they grew up in, right? So like it is, people are not very well traveled, which I get. It's expensive, it's a luxury, like it is a privilege to be able to do that. And we are incredibly fortunate to be in a position where that's a realistic goal for us. So like that's something that we're going to try to do every year. So yeah, I'm not going to sell Talix Media and buy a van in my mid 40s and and scarper off to go be a ski bum. There's a little piece of me that wishes I could, but it's not realistic. I did have a ton of fun skiing over the last month, and I am probably going to buy an Epic Pass this year because I actually get a good deal on it. Like, I mean, look, I don't love the company. I don't love Vail, like, and kind of what they've done to the skiing industry, but I gotta say, like, they'll allow me to apply one of the tickets that I bought this season against the price of the pass for next year. So it's like $700 for the year, and it gives me access to all kinds of resorts all over the place. And yeah, so it works out to kind of a good deal. So I think I'm gonna do it.
Tom, I'm saying it right here. You get your pass and let's meet up in New York. I think it's Snowshoe or something like that. We'll meet up probably like a halfway point across, and that'll be our mission for next winter. What do you think?
Yeah, either that or someplace like up by Scranton, up in like the northern, Poconos or something like that. We could
Yeah,
do
yeah.
somewhere up there. That would work too.
All
There's
right, we're skiing.
there. So yeah, hey man, let's do it. Let's do a ski weekend next year.
All right, it's in. All right, this is not the smartest guys in the room. We've jibber jabbered enough about our ski lives and buying a van, and now we're going to talk about intentionality. I love that I can say that word very smoothly. Intentionality. I actually was on, and I see Dave Campbell here in the room right now. I was on Dave's podcast the other day, and Living the Next Chapter, and we talked about words mattering, the detail of the words. Like as a publisher of books, Tom, I really want to say, like, every word matters, every detail matters. I want you to be proud of your book for 10 years from now. So if to be proud of your book, me and you talk about this, maybe there's a detail that you didn't think about. Just before we got on, Tom mentioned the word a story hole. Maybe there's something that you weren't thinking about. You wrote it and I always say, the story so well that sometimes you actually didn't write what you wanted to say because you know it so well. Well, it's in your head, so you didn't put it down. So the words matter, the details matter, intentionality. So Tom, I will lay it off to you.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, I mean, this is a topic I love, and I love it for a lot of different reasons, but I think probably because it's a little, in a weird way, it's kind of nostalgic for me, which sounds like a weird thing to say, but I'll make it make sense for you. When I was a kid, I was that kid that always asked why. I always wanted to know why, and it drove my parents nuts. They were not fans of how curious I was. I mean, they were, but they weren't, right? Of how curious I was as a kid. We had a set of encyclopedias on a shelf in the den. And so whenever I would start asking questions, my parents would be like, go look it up. And so I would have to go look it up. But then the way that would backfire for them is I would turn around and come back and tell them all the things that I had just learned about this question, because I assumed that they didn't tell me the answer because they didn't know either. And so I was like, hey, I learned this. They should learn it too. And so I would go and then instruct them or teach them all the things that I had just learned about this topic that they had told me to go look up. But the reason why I love about talking about intentionality is I think that question, that simple why, is not asked often enough when it comes to, especially in the realm of creative work. And I think because, people often overlook that whatever you're doing has to make sense to the audience. It doesn't necessarily have to be the thing that you want it to be. It has to be the thing that delivers for your audience. And that's where, I mean, I see this in my B2B work all the time. That's where so often businesses get things wrong, is they create something for themselves, answering questions that they want the answers to, talking about the things that they're most interested in. And their audience is left sitting there going, okay, but why do I care? Right. And so I think it's really important to ask that question, why, as often as possible, as often as necessary. And if somebody asks you that question, I think one of two things happens. Either you have a really clear answer And so you're in good shape. Or if you don't have a clear answer, then that's a cue to you that you have to go back and figure out where you missed the mark in communicating with your audience and fix that gap. So anyway, yeah, I mean, I love talking about intentionality. I love using that simple, often overlooked question of why, and using it to make our work better and make our communications a little bit better and a little bit clearer.
Me and Tom, full disclosure here, Tom, I'm telling the world. Me and Tom wrote a pilot together, and we've been working on it probably a year now. And now we're having more talks with different people and things like that. And we know it needs to be tighter, right? Why not? Better, better, better. And our file is back and forth of me asking Tom why, Tom asking me why. And I mean, like I asked him why on something, and he sent me a video the other day from a TV show. And 4 minutes in, I see why in the video. Like he explained, well, if we did this here, maybe we could do this. And then I'll respond to a why. He'll ask me, he'll say, Dominick, why? And I look at it and I'm like, shit, I didn't say what I wanted to say there. I have this great idea, but I just put it in one line. Well, I should elaborate. So, Tom, go on before we get to the rest of this crew here.
Yeah, no, I think that's great, Dom. I mean, perfect example. You're exactly right. That the script that we've been working on, the pilot that we've been working on, has been a ton of fun to work on back and forth. But yeah, lots of those whys. And every time you ask me or every time I ask you, it's really, the intention is to make it better for an audience. Because ultimately, that's what you're creating, something you want to create, but you're creating it for the impact it'll have on the audience. And I think that's the thing that's often overmissed. And I love whenever I have the opportunity to get to watch something that I've made with an audience, because often I deliver something to a client and I never get to see anybody see it for the first time. I never get to be there when people experience what I've made. And often what I've put hours and hours and hours of my life into creating, I never get to see that realized, right? Because I don't work in a live medium. I'm not there with the audience most of the time. So I love it whenever I get to be there with the audience and see their reactions and see the impact that the piece of content that I've made has on them, because that's ultimately, that's the drug. Right. That is the sweet high that you're looking for as a content creator, as a communicator, as a creative, is seeing that impact on your audience, seeing your audience appreciate the thing that you've made for them. So yeah, so I think it's been a really fun process over the last year. I think we're getting close to actually putting it out, sharing it with a few folks and seeing if maybe we've got some legs to getting something put on tape, so to speak, or put on film, or put on a digital media card. It's less romantic to say that than put on film. But yeah, I think we're getting close to that. All of those whys are very simple to make it better. And we just cut a big section of the script out because neither one of us had a good answer for why it was there. We both liked it. We thought it was interesting and fun, and there was like a hint of character development, but it didn't really further the story. And so it had to go. Sometimes you got to make cuts. So yeah, I'm with you, Dom. Those whys are super important.
Good stuff. Not the smartest guys in the room. Dr. Tachi, how do you, if you want, good morning, and how do you make sure that your content is hitting the mark? Do you have is there somebody that edits before, like, do you have somebody you trust, or is it I trust Dr. Tachi, or are you always asking the audience? How do you know that the content is hitting the mark?
Commentary from the audience. I don't do a pre-production type thing where people are looking at, no, it's just me. And plus, with the way content goes, sometimes if you wait for that type of thing, it never gets up. And that's part of the thing with looking at things. We want things to be perfect, or not perfect, but as perfect as it can be. But if we're constantly going back and forth with people, oh, I should change this, or maybe I should change this, it never gets up. So I just put it up and then let the audience determine what they think is useful. Because sometimes we are in our own way in terms, and things never get posted or never get put up or distributed because we're so intent on it hitting perfectly when there's no such thing as that. So I basically look at comments when I people that are actually making comments on what I do. That's how I know that it's hitting the mark. And the thing is, I ask often, and I won't just put it up. I'll ask them to contribute to the whole venture. What do you think about this, or have you ever had? And so if I see people contributing, because I usually don't put it till the end, that means that they watched and or read the caption till the end so that they can contribute. That's how I know it's useful. I rest.
Yeah, I think the thing that comes to mind, Dr. Tachi, there is the often overused cliche, and I'm like, it gets used so much I'm almost loath to say it out loud, but the don't let perfection be the enemy of good, right? You know, often we get in a situation where, and I have this happen with clients. I mean, my world is a little bit different. It's sort of inherent to our process that for the content that we make for clients, typically there's 2 rounds of revisions are included in everything that we do. And so there's always a back and forth with the client on a piece. And sometimes you can get into a death spiral. The easy way from a business perspective that I kind of steer them out of that death spiral of constant notes and like never sort of signing off and allowing something to go out is I remind them that after the 2 rounds of revisions, they're paying full hourly rate for every round of revisions we do thereafter. And so that usually gets them to stop because they go, okay, there's a cost involved. What's the cost? Is it worth that much to me? No, not really. Okay, fine. We'll go ahead and put it out. But yeah, like you can't let perfection be the enemy of good. Nothing will ever be perfect. It just has to be the best you can do in that moment, given those circumstances. Like, to me, that's the gold standard. If it's the best you can do in that moment, given the circumstances, it goes out the door. What do you think, Dom?
Tom, I agonize over this, and I want to go to Holly here as an editor, and then even me and you, like when we're talking about the pilot, agonizing over a line. You know, we have a line with an antique register and a hand and notes and writing, and just to write that line, there's 50 ways to write one line, and you can agonize and agonize and agonize over a line. So I want to ask Holly, as an editor of books, is there a line where we can stop? Holly, how do you know? Because in the book world, you're not editing much once that book's out, very, very rarely. So Holly, what do you do? How do you know it's ready to go?
Hey, good morning, everyone. Thanks for the question, Dominick. You know, it is a fine line. And I think we come to a place where we are simply just rewriting the same intent, if that makes sense at all. And I think the line is reached when a reword doesn't do anything but reword. It doesn't help the content. It doesn't drive the story forward. It doesn't do anything except for just rewording. And I think a lot of times we get to that place as a writer and an editor to where it's like, okay, this is not all we're doing is just changing the way you're saying it, but you're saying the same thing. So let's find the one you want and keep it there and move on. So I hope that answered that. That's the way I look at that as an editor.
Holly, very interesting. And I've been to that agonizing point many a time. So that is a very interesting way to look at it is, okay, you just wrote the same thing. You didn't change anything. You just restructured it for the 50th time here. So I get that. All right. Speaking of things I get at this time of day on Not the Smartest Guys in the Room, we go to Tom's Thumbs. This is where we ask our friend Tom something, he's got to give a strong thumbs up or a strong thumbs down to it. So, Tom, today, I, in honor, or I see that we're going to go around the moon this week in a rocket. There's talk of launching up in this rocket. So I even wrote this question down for you today. So I wanted to be very articulate and clear for you. Holding my paper up. Tom, thumbs up or thumbs down to the growing belief that the original moon landing was staged?
I mean, that's an easy one. It's an obvious thumbs down. I mean, I think it's right up there with the whole flat Earth conspiracy, right? I mean, it is just ridiculous to believe. Not only is it ridiculous just on a theoretical level, it's ridiculous on a practical level because there is empirical evidence that we have been to the moon. In fact, on one of the moon missions, they placed a mirror on the moon and you can shoot a laser at that mirror and it bounces straight back to you on Earth and you can measure it. And it is a clear and replicable experiment that has been conducted thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of times since that mirror was placed. It is obvious evidence that we have been on the moon. And all of the nonsense conspiracy theories are just nonsense. It doesn't make any sense. And here's the sort of the proof in terms of the conspiracy side of things, right? Besides, throw away the empirical evidence, right? Throw away, don't believe what your lying eyes are telling you, right? Like, don't believe what you see, believe what I say, right? Throw all of that away. The simple fact is, far too many people would have to be involved in this conspiracy for it to be true. We are terrible at keeping secrets. To prove my point, Anthropic, right? An AI company we're all familiar with. If you've been paying attention for the last couple of years to anything going on in the news, you've heard of Anthropic. Their AI model, Claude, the source code for Claude was just leaked, like in the last day, right? Leaked. The entire source code for Claude, for their AI model, basically their secret sauce, their recipe, right? Like their equivalent of like Colonel Sanders 11 spices and seasonings, like that recipe was just leaked. So if Anthropic can't keep a few hundred people from leaking that by paying them, right? Because they're all under NDAs, they're all being paid, right? So if they can't keep a few hundred people from leaking that source code with NDAs and with threat of litigation and by paying them, what makes anybody believe that thousands of people over decades, right, over like literally the last 60, 70 years would be able to keep it a secret that we had not gone to the moon, that it had all been staged and filmed in Hollywood? I mean, give me a break. Like, if you believe that we haven't been to the moon, I have a bridge to sell you and some swampland in Florida that I think you might be interested in. And, you know, if you live in the Great White North, I'll sell you a snow cone. Like, I mean, it's unbelievable to me, unfathomable to me that people actually believe this nonsense. So for all of those reasons, it gives me great joy to give this a massive double thumbs down.
Wow, Tom, you came out hot. I want to know in the comments, does anybody disagree with Tom? That's what I want to add this. At any point after a thumbs up or thumbs down, do you disagree? Oh, thumbs downs. I see thumbs downs. Okay, just saying. Oh, everybody's mad at Tom. Yeah. Hey, Tom, my wife was just listening to last week's because it comes out on the podcast a couple days later. And she said after Tom's thumbs that Tom hates a bass tan. Last week we talked about bass tans, and my buddy Trevor and me were cool. We get bass tans. He's about to go to the Bahamas with his wife and his kids. He's getting his bass tan. So hated the bass tans last week and hates the thought that some people think we didn't land on the moon. Okay, Tom.
I mean, I don't see the point in a base tan. Like, it's just silly. silly ridiculousness. And to Jim, who just commented that I hate thumbs up, I'll remind you, Jim, I did give iced coffee a thumbs up not that long ago, just a couple of weeks ago. We were just talking about this. So I do give thumbs up when it's something that is deserving of it. But believing in the conspiracy theory that that we haven't been to the moon gets a thumbs down. I mean, it's nonsense. It's just nonsense.
All right, here we go. This is not the smartest guys in the room. We're talking intentionality. Words matter. So whether it's written, whether it's in video, I'm looking at this book. I brought a book here, Og Mandino, The World's Greatest Salesman. Og Mandino, my dad gave it to me in 6/29/1990, and it was written probably 40 years before that. The words matter. Every word in there is perfect. When he talks about being a camel boy, or when he talks about I must persist until I succeed. These are clear, concise messages that stand the test of time. So we are talking today about words mattering. Go on, Tom.
I got to ask, I'm sorry, being a camel boy? What?
Being a camel boy. I'm glad you asked, and I will go into more detail. In the story, the boy believes that his lot in life is to be a camel boy, meaning it is a parable from, in biblical times. And this young man believes that his lot in life is to care for the camels. And he's told that his lot in life is to care for the camels and the animals, and that he'll never be anything. And at one point he asked, is it wrong to want better? Is it wrong to want to feed my family? Is it wrong to want to buy them nicer things? And so basically in the book, it is not wrong, but don't strive for those things. Strive for happiness. And the tools, the secrets to success are given to this kid who was once a camel boy, and then he has this great success. So I'm so passionate about the words mattering, Tom. And in that, I think I even have sentences highlighted where he talks about this word, like all of us. I'm going into it because this is how much I love the word. We all have a lot in life, or we think we do, or somebody told us we were meant to be this, or we were meant to be that. Well, maybe you think you were meant to be more. And in this book, with one line, and he uses the metaphor of a camel boy to show we've all been there, and that's the beauty of that one question that even you asked about, which it's just beautiful, and that's the power of the word, Tom. So go on.
Well, I just wanted, I appreciate that. I really wanted clarification on camel boy, because you said it as if it was something that was like just commonly said, as if it was like a saying that was just part of the vernacular. And I don't know that I've ever heard anyone say like being a camel boy before. So I just wanted to clarify. That was my I'm sorry, why did you say camel boy?
When we go to memory lane later, you asked me a question like that a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to tackle that in memory lane. Okay, so first we're going back to intentionality. Teresa, how do you make sure your content, your message is intentional, or do you have a question about how to be better at it? Go on.
Okay, here's confession time. I have no intentionality. I'm not consistent. I joined a program to do, but I haven't gotten into it. But I am making strides to get my task list filled and checking off and making it fun. And so I'm doing that my lunch hour where I have more task lists. But for this, I think I would have to add it, posting, and I want to write for Substack because I think that's a content piece, but I think that I'm just going to put it out there that you have to be consistent. But when I post, my thing is just for engagement. I want to make sure that people are out there, but I do go into groups to connect with people that are like-minded business entrepreneurs so we can connect on Zoom, because social media, I don't know, I just think it's it's there like static, you know, like television, and just, I don't think many people are really paying attention to what's going on. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Tom, I want to tell you, I had a great call with Teresa recently, and we talked about books and writing and messaging and things like that. And then she asked me so directly and so kindly, she said, would you mind sometimes if we jumped on a video and I showed you this, but also because I need to practice it too, and it would really be helpful to me. And the way she asked it, so intentional, so kind, I'm like, sign me up. And so, Tom, intentionality, Teresa, you got any suggestions for her?
I mean, I think for me, it's sort of baked in, right? Because maybe I take it for granted actually, because I'm always asking why, that I operate with that sort of built-in safety mechanism for intentionality that maybe, I've taken for granted in my life. But one of the other things that I do too, to make sure that my intention is clear with the work that I do, is I almost always, and sometimes to her chagrin, but often, she's a willing aid in this respect. Almost always my wife gets to see work before it goes to a client for the first time. And that's because sometimes you're too close to things to realize that you've sort of missed, or you've taken things for granted, or you've glossed over something, and you're not being as intentional with your language or with your visuals or with your storytelling as you should be. And so sometimes it just takes a set of fresh eyes, somebody outside of the situation, somebody removed from the context, to be able to point out where you've missed the mark. So I think that's one of my favorite sort of, tips when it comes to testing intentionality and making sure that everything that you've done, that you need to do, is there, and that everything that is there needs to be there, is the other side of it, is by having a set of fresh eyes look at something before it goes out to your audience. I mean, I'm lucky the work that I do makes it relatively easy to do that. So it's not hard to ask Becky to watch a couple of minute long video. I'm sure, it's harder for you, Dom, to get somebody to volunteer to read an entire book, to go through it if they're not the editor. But often the editor is kind of removed from the context, right? Because they're not involved in the sort of day-to-day back and forth with the author. The book is, or at least sections of the book are relatively whole and supposed to be relatively finished, put together by the time they get to the editor. So they're not dealing with it like page by page. They're not necessarily dealing with it from the sort of concept phase the way you would be. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that's fresh eyes are, is probably one of my best pieces of advice when it comes to double checking and ensuring intentionality.
Good one, Tom. Thank you, Teresa. Jason, how about you? You have any tips about intentionality? How do you make sure your content, your podcast, your message is intentional? Your TikToks, whatever.
My intentionality is, first I'm making it for myself. And it's like, if I were a different person watching this, is it landing somewhere? An idea, the principle, or the movement to my experience? Did I realize that my experience produced an outcome? And so when you look at intentionality, you're looking, is like, does it meet a finish line, the outcome that either you knew about or you didn't know, or you needed to discover for yourself, when you connect to a public? And people relate more to, not taglines, but real experiences. And that's just it. You can't perfect anything long as you enjoy it. That's it. I stopped making for other people. I just started making for me. And usually I post like once or twice, say like on TikTok. And one of the things I think about, it's usually something that I experienced within the last 2 weeks that I talk about. And I relate it to something literary or something personable. Like, for example, rumination, how people self-destruct on themselves, but they don't realize how they train it by, say like when they tell this bad story of something tragedy they survived, and they tell it over and over and over, it doesn't land But if they said, okay, if I would to tell this story to a person that is going right through it, is it no longer about me, but the effect to encourage them, or is it just about me? So you have to decide. It's like, well, is it just landing for me? But when I make with an audience in mind, when I talk to, say, like us right now, and we're talking about a real life experience, and you come saying, I've been through that before. I've been through a failure. When we had our discussion, the experience of failing at a restaurant, at the end, like having to give it up, and what was my relation to that? My relation is I had worked in a restaurant and I had to leave it because it was just no longer serving me. So what are the symbiotic relationship? You're an owner, I was a worker. At some point, you move on or you keep going. So the intentionality is to understand as you meet the moment and the moment is shared with other people that it relates, the meeting of the minds. So that's all I'll say.
Jason, appreciate you, my friend. And I have been watching Jason for a while, been on his podcast, but I do see the intentionality on like the TikToks and stuff like that. I am appreciative when I know what I'm going to get. Meaning, okay, he's going to ask me this question, like about ruminating. Are you doing this? Are you doing that? Have you thought about this? And it's usually something person 30 to 60 might be thinking about in their daily life. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I am thinking about that, or was, or wasn't. And then he gives you some tips, a follow up, something to work on. So I think it's pretty clear, Jason, and I think you're doing a good job. So keep it up, double down on it. How's that? Double down on it.
Can I add something? You were talking about Augmentino. Here's one great takeaway from Augmentino and the greatest salesman in the world. Remember this line: look for opportunity when others wouldn't. It's one in the first 5 scrolls. Remember he talks about 5 scrolls?
Of
And then
course, I scroll.
and the king sends him out and he fails miserably but gives away the robe. But he didn't know by giving away the robe, when that community shut him out, they brought him in.
Yeah, brilliant. There is a power of back to the words and things like that. Here, the words in Augmentino, in The World's Greatest Salesman, and many books, The Alchemist, there's a personal legend, all the books, movies, shows. We talked about Shawshank Redemption last week and Red giving him speech, or your favorite line in any show, any movie, whatever that is. There was such detail to that, such work. Why did they write it? To move the story forward, to make you think about this, to make you think about it 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So there's a beauty, words matter. Julie Loken, I'm looking at Julie's profile picture and I see me in it. Yay, Julie. Me and Julie host the Creative Entrepreneur podcast together and host Creative Con together. So I made her picture. I'm moving up in the world, Tom. I made this profile picture with Julie even today. But Julie, we're talking.
I was intentional. I was
We're
intentional.
intentional. So
Mhm.
tell us how you help, or how somebody should be more intentional. Do you have a tip for us that somebody's sharing their message? How can they be more intentional?
Okay, well, I'm going to take it off the digital platform. Hang on just 1 second. Excuse me. I am being very intentional with my words and with my actions this year, because I don't see my growth necessarily using my words on digital platforms, and I'm taking my intentionality into real life and having real life interactions, because as I'm seeing major shifts in terms of people really wanting the human interaction, the real life interactions. People are getting very, in my opinion, from what I'm observing, that people are getting very burnt out, very exhausted from all of our electronic and digital interactions and the AI interactions. So I'm going to dial it back and really focus intentionally on having human real interactions throughout this year. So that's my intentionality. I think it's really important that we start thinking a little bit more that way. And I think the magic will be there for all of us if we just give a little bit more of our human interactions going forward. I know it sounds so boring, but I bet you that Tom would agree with me.
Let's go right to Tom on that. I like that you switched it up to human intentionality in person. So Tom, have at it.
Well, is there some specific part of that you think I would agree with, Julie, or just out of curiosity? Is there what's the thing that you think I would co-sign on?
I think the whole thing, actually, Tom. I mean, I honestly think just that human interaction, the human touch. I think just we have, as a society, have just become, like we've just become so reliant on doing everything, taking the easy route and the work slop. And what did they say? The word slop became the word of the year for Webster's dictionary last year. I mean, that's just where our society's gone. But people are craving human intelligence, human interaction. So it's pretty easy to sign off on that, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's not controversial. I just wanted to be clear, because you talked about a few things there, so I just wanted to be clear on what I was signing off on. But yeah, I mean, human to human interaction is important. I think the more we can do to always remember that on every side of every piece of communication, every transaction, there's always a person on the other end of it, right? The more we can do to remember that and to behave accordingly. And I think one of the key things there, Julie, is, and probably one of the things that goes along with what you were saying, is in our communications, even when we're sort of removed digitally from other people, to never say something that we wouldn't say to someone's face, right? Like, I try to use that as a filter. I never post something, share something on the internet that I wouldn't say to someone's face, right? To make sure that I'm filtering out and not allowing myself to kind of fall into that trap of that distance, that removal from interpersonal reaction. So I think the more we do to remember that, whether it's digitally or face to face, we're interacting with other human beings and we should act accordingly, the better off we all are. So yeah, I'm with you.
And even the personalized style that you just talked to me in, you used my name several times. That is a human interaction that is a lost art as well. The ability to remember people's names. People don't do that. And that's just a little tip there. Remember people's names. Use it in sentences. It goes a long way. Okay, I'm going to land my plane.
Julie, well done. They say the sweetest sound in the world is your own name. Good points there. Okay, speaking of good points, Tom, you were rolling. So now it's time for a PSA. You were saying some good stuff there that could have been like a PSA, but give us today's PSA. What do you got?
All right, so today's PSA is April Fool's focused. And this is just to say, like, I made a little April Fool's joke earlier in the program. I joked about, selling my business and buying a van and going to become a ski bum in my mid 40s, because I had so much fun skiing the couple of weekends that I went over the last month. That's obviously, there's kind of no victim there. It's a victimless joke, right? I think the key to a good April Fool's prank or joke is that it is victimless. There's tons of examples online of April Fools gone awry, but two like popped up for me. One was DJs announcing on the radio that the water supply had been contaminated with dihydrogen monoxide, which is water, and inducing a panic, flooding the water department with lots of calls and creating a lot of issues for the city department. Another one was a clothing store employee in Ohio who called her boss and told her boss that they were being robbed at gunpoint. Her boss called the cops and she ended up getting arrested for inducing a panic and creating an unsafe situation, right? So, like, be careful with your April Fool's pranks today. Make sure that they are victimless, right? I think that's the key. That's my PSA.
Well done, Tom. I like it. Okay, I'll go on the clock here. My PSA for today, I have been a coach of multiple sports, youth coaches through the years. I did my best. I volunteered. I thought I knew about the game. I tried my best. When somebody's coaching your team, your kids' team, give them a break. If you want to do it, you could have volunteered. If you are talking to the coach, that means you're not the coach. So give the coach a break. They're just trying to be a good dad most of the time, be a member of the community. Don't be so hard on them. If they're a coach of the school, they're not getting paid a lot of money. Give them a break. Don't be texting them after about playing time and that you didn't like the schematics of the game. Did you play? Do you know anything? Why didn't you volunteer? Why didn't you volunteer to help? So just give a little more grace with the coaches of all levels. That's what I got for you.
I like it. Yeah. There's so many videos online of parents like losing it at coaches. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you for sure. Like, and at the end of the day too, I mean, come on. Like, what do you take it, like we're at T-ball and you're going to yell at the coach? Like, what are we doing? Right? Like there's no stakes. Like nobody's making, getting a scholarship or not getting a scholarship because of whether or not they got to play T-ball or like they got up to bat in their latest T-ball game. I mean, come on, like get yourselves together, like refocus on priorities and maybe, look at the bigger picture instead of freaking out on your kid's, T-ball coach, you lunatic.
Exactly, Tom. Hey, so before we get to wrap up in memory lane, can I get from the group here, maybe Tom in general, a favorite line, phrase that makes you think about a book? It could be a book, it could be a show. What's the line that makes you go back to it over and over again? Tom?
I mean, I don't know. The first thing that pops to mind is from a movie, and it's a childhood classic, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, at least for me, for our generation, right? And it's you can't take life too seriously, or life moves pretty fast. God, I even got it wrong. Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop to look around every once in a while, you just might miss it. So yeah, I was conflating two lines, but yeah, anyway, that's the line that first popped into my head when you said that.
Okay, good one. Dr. Tachi, you got a line for us from something?
Is it supposed to be useful for life or just a line?
No, just a line that is so good, you remember it, you look it up, you sing it when it could be a song where you're like, whatever.
It's just funny for me. So Coming to America is something I could watch every week without fail and not get tired of it. So the part where Akeem, played by Eddie Murphy, comes in and is trying to explain that he watched a football match and Mr. McDowell thinks he's on drugs, that he was like, look, son, if you want to keep working here, stay off the drugs. And he's just smiling and just says, yes, sir. And then goes away. My sister and I always talk about that. And the second one from the same movie, my sister and I always say, my son works, when he finds out that he has a job at McDonald's. So we always say that for everything. We're like, this thing works? So it's silly, but that's my line.
Great job, but it's so good. Well done. Okay. I looked one up so I could get it right. So, Julie, you got a line? Anything that speaks to you over and over and over again? Moment?
Well, this is the first thing that comes to my mind. I don't know why, but it would be Jack Nicholson saying, "You can't handle the truth," to Tom
Yeah.
Cruise and A Few Good Men.
I actually
Iconic.
I thought about starting this show today with setting Tom up with asking him if he wanted the truth. And I was going to come down and say, you can't handle the truth. And because Julie, it's great. It's well written. It was well delivered. Okay, I'm going with
Our brains are weirdly becoming one, Dom. I'm worried.
Well, here's one for you. I'm reading two from a Garth Brooks song, The Dance. So I love this song, The Dance, and I just got into country music like 15 years ago or so. And now I'm glad I didn't know the way it all would end, the way it would go. I just, this phrase in this song where I'm just like, why did he say it like that? Why? It was so perfect. And I hear it, and every time I hear him, and I'm glad I didn't know, and I love it every time. So, Tom, that's what I got. You ready for memory lane? Or you got another one for us, Tom?
No. I think the other line that I was thinking of was like, you can't take life too seriously. No one makes it out alive, or quote, or whatever. That was the other one I was thinking of that I sort of like conflated when I stumbled on my Ferris Bueller line earlier. But, I like that one. I used to quote that a fair amount to people. But anyway, that's something I used to do. Let's talk about something you used to do. Why don't you take us on a trip down memory lane?
Love to, Tom. A few weeks ago, I had mentioned that I worked at an olive store at one point in my life. And you asked me, I said the olive store. And you asked me the olive store. So when I was in the restaurant business and I was going broke, first thing I did, I got a job as a paper boy. I got a job as a referee. I stayed open later. And at one time, I got a job at the Italian market that's international. And it was, they are the largest importer in the world of olives. So I called it the olive store. And Tom, I went to this place. I got the job. I worked for 2 days and then I quit. My time in the olive store only lasted 2 days. And not because they did anything wrong, because even though I was failing in my restaurant, I wasn't ready to give it up during the day. I loved it so much that I had to stay there and go down with the ship 100%. But from the olive store, they did let me keep the hat, and it was the most beautiful hat in the uniform and such. So that's memory lane was my brief stint at the olive store, doing what I had to do to try to make it another day, Tom.
It sounds like when you say the olive store, like immediately what my mind, I mean, and obviously, you know, we talked about this, so I know exactly what you're talking about. But where my mind goes is it sounds like an SNL sketch where like a Greek immigrant opened an electronics shop, and instead of it being like but really like the branding of the Apple store, and so they called it the olive store, and it's like a very heavily accented like Greek immigrant selling electronics at like deep discounted prices at the olive store. So like, I don't know, that's where I'm weird and a little bit crazy, but that's where my brain goes.
Hey, well, I will say it's Delillo's Italian market. They have stuff in stores all over the country. My friend Anthony runs it. His uncle Fran gave me the job at the time. And when I told Fran, I said, Fran, I love my restaurant too much. I got to go back. Me and him drank wine up in the office, and he said, good luck to me over there. So they're just great people. Delillo's, they are the olive store because they sell all the Italian stuff. So that's my plug for them.
Nice. So yeah, I kind of want to see that sketch on Saturday Night Live though. I feel like that could be good. If like Stavros, what's his name? Stavros, the comedian Halikios, like if he was on SNL and they did that, like I think that would be a pretty funny sketch. I don't know. You know, if any of the writers from SNL are listening, sketch, just let me know. I take it and run with it. I think it'd be hilarious. Anyway, what do you think, Dom? Are we I think we're ready to wrap up, yeah?
I think at this point you wrap us up, Tom. Let's do it.
All right. So, you know, we talked a lot today about a lot of different things when it comes to intentionality, about how words matter, communications matter, context matters, all of these things matter. And I think genuinely the best advice I can give when it comes to ensuring that your intentionality comes through is to just ask why. And if you aren't the right person to ask why, find someone in your life, a colleague, a friend, your partner, whoever it is, someone that you can trust to be honest with you and have them go through and look for places to ask why. But I think ultimately that simple question can really be the difference between creating something where your intention shines through or your intention is completely missed. So that's my humble, simple wrap up. When in doubt, just ask why. I think that's the best advice I can give. So anyway, look, we appreciate all of you guys being here with us and not the smartest guys in the room. We appreciate you being here with us every week, week after week. For going on years now, we've been doing this, which is crazy to think about, but I look forward to every Wednesday morning to hanging out with all of you, to getting to talk to Dom and to talk about all the crazy, weird, wacky, zany things that we talk about. Everything from quoting Ferris Bueller to whether or not we landed on the moon and whether or not words matter. You never know what you're going to get with not the smartest guys in the room. So thanks for being here on the ride with us today and all the other days we've done this. We appreciate you guys. We love you. You're the reason why we do this. You make us not the smartest guys in the room. For Dom, I'm Tom. Thanks again. We love you guys, and we will see you next Wednesday. Until then, have a great rest of your week and a great weekend. Bye-bye.